Hey, what's up, cats and kittens? And shout out to all my cerebralites. It's me, the Cerebral Diva. Back with another episode of RealiTea. And that's TEA because we're about to spill the tea. First of all, if my voice sounds a little raspy, it's because I just woke up a little while ago. I'm actually about to head to the gym here in a second. But as I was getting dressed this morning, I had the Real Housewives of Atlanta Season 9, Episode 1 reunion playing in the background. And so while I've already did a review of this last night, there's some things that, as I was watching it for the second time, that I really wanted to touch on. First of all, let me touch on the looks. Um, I loved everyone's look for the most part. As far as hair goes, the award for most wearable hair to me would go to Sheree. I thought Sheree's hair was really pretty. It was sort of sophisticated. I love the cut of it. Um, I prefer her hairstyle was probably more my style. I also thought that it was nice to see Porsha wearing her natural hair. I thought it looked really pretty on her. She has a really beautiful face, so the hair really complemented and really accentuated her face, and as opposed to having hair sort of take over your face. So I thought she looked really pretty. Um, let's see. I thought Kandi's hair was a little boring, just parted and straight to the back. I mean, it was sleek and sophisticated, but I don't know. It just wasn't really hitting on much for me personally. Probably the award for worst hair and worst makeup, I'm sorry to say it, would have to go to Paheadra. I don't know, stylistically, I'm just not really a fan. Well, there were a couple times this season where she was at work, sort of her work attire. I really appreciate Phaedra's work attire as opposed to her recreational attire. Um, on the reunion, the white eyeliner, the blonde hair. Like there was even a scene, I believe, in the second to last episode of this season where she and Porsha were celebrating her birthday, and Porsha was trying on different styles of wigs on Phaedra, and there was one sort of blonde bob that I thought looked really, really cute on Phaedra, and I thought that that would be a great style for her. But for whatever reason, she's a really sort of compact lady, and the long hair just really doesn't do much for her, and she has a really sort of rounder, fuller face. But I mean, I think Phaedra's pretty nonetheless, but I just wasn't really a fan of the hair, the white eyeliner. It just didn't really do it for me personally. Let's see. I thought Kenya looked really pretty. I love Kenya's hair. It looks like she's like rocking some sort of faux bob. I didn't really see the back of it, but I'm guessing she sort of had it tucked under. I thought the yellow looked really good on Kenya's complexion as well. And Cynthia, every reunion is like she's anticipating turning the volume up to 10, and she didn't let us down this year. The hair was out of control, sort of Bride of Frankenstein meets Khalees. I don't know, but just I really enjoyed her hair. I thought her boob job looked amazing. I thought the dress looked amazing. I thought she looked like a woman who was just recently divorced, who's back out on the dating scene, who's trying to make an impact. So the award to me for overall best look would probably go to I don't know. It would probably be I prefer Kenya and Sheree's hair. I don't know. I'm more of a fan of sort of the bob style hair, so I like both of their hair the best. I think I would have to give the win to Sheree though, just because I prefer sort of the sleekness of her style versus the curls and fullness of Kenya's. Okay, so now that we have the looks out of the way, let's talk about some more of the drama. Because tonight's episode was, when I first watched this episode, I was sort of like on the fence, like this was kind of boring. But watching it um, the second time around, there were a lot of things that I saw that I missed the first time for whatever reason. Maybe I was just distracted by, the fact that it was on and so excited that I wasn't really paying close attention to all of the the stuff that was happening. To me, the first episode really centered around Kenya. They talked a lot about Kenya's relationship with Porsha, Kenya's relationship with Phaedra, Kenya's back and forth with Sheree over Chateau Sheree. And I really talked about the whole thing with Chateau Sheree already, so I don't really want to rehash that. I'll just say I just think it's the most ridiculous argument that I've seen. Two women who are doing well in life, who have beautiful homes. I mean, like when it comes to a home or something like that, there's never ever going to be a clear winner because it really comes down to a matter of preference and taste. I'm sort of a modern minimalist. I don't like a lot of clutter. I don't like a lot of stuff in my house. I like, if I have a Roomba, I want my Roomba to be able to clean my floor and not be encumbered by, statues and plants. And, I just like clean living for the most, although you wouldn't be able to tell if you could see inside my bedroom right now. But yeah, I like sort of simple, sleek, clean living. And then I go to some people's houses and they have portraits of their family and they have all sorts of tchotchkes on the table. And to me, it feels like a museum or like an older person's house. But apparently, some people prefer that. But for me, not so much. So when it comes to Chateau Charade and Moore Manor, it really comes down to a preference. And I think as opposed to arguing about whose house is the best, they should both be grateful for having homes because there are a lot of people who don't. And not just homes, but stately homes. Like these are really, really, really nice homes. So enough of that. Um, I want to touch on really quick this whole Phaedra being upset with Kenya for throwing this divorce party. People don't like Kenya, and I get that. I get that. But Kenya really doesn't bother me. She doesn't. Let me not say that because sometimes she definitely gets on my nerves. She's a person that I would have to take in doses. But for whatever reason, I still like her. Like if I had to be friend, because when I see Kenya on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, to me I see her playing a character. I don't really see that as being her true person. I see her as a woman who is trying to maintain a job and a livelihood, and she knows that right now the Real Housewives of Atlanta is her bread and butter, and she needs to turn all the way up in order to make sure that when the cast renewals, the contract renewals come back up again, that she's not on the chopping block. So I think that she's really doing what she needs to do to make sure that she stays relevant. Kenya is in the entertainment business. Now, Phaedra is an attorney. Phaedra also has a funeral home, I believe. Phaedra has several other business endeavors outside of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. She's really diversified herself in the sense that she has multiple revenue streams. As far as I know, Kenya has the hair care line going. I'm not sure how that's doing. I don't see it in my local Target. I don't see it in my local Walmart, so I'm not sure where it's available for purchase. But I just don't see her making the sort of moves that Phaedra is making, and therefore I think that sort of colors her reactions to certain things. She's being over the top. She's being antagonistic for the sake of making sure that she maintains her relevancy on this show. So when I see her, I don't necessarily, I see her being a character, not necessarily her being Kenya. And that's why I don't really have a problem with her. I got a comment on a previous video where someone was pretty upset with me about saying that have a soft spot for Kenya. To me, when I see Kenya, I see a woman who's been damaged, by her relationship with her mother. And not that that's an excuse, because at a certain point, you can't continue to use whatever adversities, whatever challenges that you've had in your past as an excuse for adult behavior. You have to take accountability. So I'm not making an excuse for Kenya. I'm just saying that's probably one of the reasons why I feel, like, okay, I'm going to give her a pass. Because, and also I like the fact that Kenya she fights with her words. It's not necessarily a physical thing. She, got called out for being an antagonist. And I can see how a lot of people would say that, in particular with the scene with Kenya following Porsha outside of the restaurant. Now, look, I am kumbaya, I'm zen, I'm focused, I'm, I'm getting my Dalai Lama on constantly. But if someone follows me out the restaurant, at that point, I feel like you're chasing the ass whooping. So I'm going to probably more than likely stop. A, because I don't want anyone walking behind me, and certainly not a person who has a problem. So yeah, I'm going to turn around, and it's bound to be a confrontation. So in that particular instance, yes, I do see that Kenya can be an antagonist, because you're trying to elicit a response, be it a negative one or a positive one. You're trying to force someone into a corner, and that's the wrong thing to do, because you might get a response that you don't want or don't like. So, and certain, and we've seen that Porsha can definitely go there if the situation calls for it. So I do think that, I'm not giving Kenya a pass for her behavior. I just think that I like the fact that she uses words and not necessarily muscle to really back up her arguments. Even though I feel, I just don't think that she is the best reader. I really feel like she's a basic reader. Like she I know that she has some gay friends, but I think that she might want to get some new ones, and she might want to enroll in spring and summer semester in the school of reading, because I mean, if you're going to be on the show with these girls, she has to step it up. Sort of pushing buttons isn't going to be enough. If you're going to push those buttons, when someone answers that call, you have to be prepared to go in and not come out. And I don't necessarily see that from her. So that was the situation with Kenya and Porsha. I'm trying to think of what else happened that they went back and forth. Then they rehashed the whole Apollo drama. They showed sort of a vignette of Kenya and Phaedra's friendship, the sort of the ebbs and flows, the rise and fall of Kenya and Porsha. And there were a lot of things that they touched on in that vignette that was like, wow, I forgot about that. I forgot that that happened. Like one scene in particular with Kenya and Porsha praying together, and Kenya and Phaedra praying together, and Porsha essentially absolving Kenya of any wrongdoings with Apollo. And then that was like maybe two seasons ago, and then you see when Kenya threw the divorce party that Phaedra sort of rehashed that. And this is why sometimes, if you listen to any of my other videos, you know that I'm non-religious. I'm agnostic. Look, worship who you want to worship, believe what you want to believe in, but the Bible thumpers drive me crazy. They drive me crazy because they do things just like Porsha did. They espouse the teachings of the Bible, the tenets of the Bible. The Lord said this, the Lord said that, and everything that they do is pretty much contradictory to that. You sat here and prayed with this woman, forgave her, and suddenly when she's like this whole divorce party thing, I can see why they would consider that to be tacky and poor taste. I definitely understand that. But for me, I'm a person who receives things with the intent. If the intent was to hurt or harm, then I can be offended. If the intent was not a malicious one, a malignant one, then I'm going to see it as benign, and I'm not going to invest too much energy in it. And maybe I might pull the person aside and have that conversation and say, look, I don't feel like that was in the best taste, but I understand that's not where you're coming from. But maybe next time, if you're thinking of doing something, consult me directly, and just have an adult conversation with them. And so that's why when it comes to the divorce party, and as I hear myself speak, I can hear people sort of rolling their eyes like, you're making excuses for Kenya. You're making excuses for Kenya. Not making excuses at all. I'm just telling you the way that I perceive things. And I don't necessarily perceive this divorce party as something malicious. I do think that she was trying to make the most of the fact that, well, probably the only malicious intent that I could see out of the divorce party on Kenya's part is her trying to foster or create this bond, that one that you should let happen organically. Like Phaedra and I are talking, so let me really go in and really pull us closer by trying to manufacture a relationship with her by throwing this divorce party. So in that sense, I can see not even necessarily malice, it's more so haste, in the sense that she's trying to force this relationship to happen as opposed to letting it evolve organically. So, and also the fact that she wanted camera time, and so she was trying to sort of maybe hijack the cameras a little bit and show, look world, look, I'm a good person, look at me throwing this divorce party for my friends. I could see that in terms of malice, but I don't think that she was truly trying to hurt or embarrass or sort of celebrate the fact that Phaedra's marriage or Cynthia's marriage had failed. So she prayed with Kenya. They talked about it. They let it go. But unfortunately, during this divorce party, Phaedra felt offended. She left, and then she texted some really horrible things to Porsha. Now, in that particular instance, I blame Porsha because Porsha is the one who regurgitated everything that Phaedra said to her via text to Kenya and sort of escalated it. And I think that that was a contrived thing on Porsha's part because you knew by reading that text that no good was going to come of it. You knew that that was going to further damage the relationship, and I think that a conscious it was a conscious and intentional sabotage on the part of Porsha because Porsha didn't want Kenya and Phaedra to be close, and she achieved that by reading that text message out loud. So they went back and forth about that, and every time they confronted. Andy was asking Porsha questions about, you know, why Phaedra doesn't step in or intervene when Portia's sort of in the midst of the turmoil that's happening with the ladies. Why does Porsha sit by idly and allow why does Phaedra sit by idly and allow Porsha to fight to fend for herself? And Portia's like Portia Phaedra's like, oh well, I'm an attorney and I can't behave like that. But I mean, like, girl, you were married to a convicted felon. Stop this whole, image thing. Like we see you. Okay, you had a stripper come on and perform oral sex on himself on at a birthday party, I believe in like season 2 or 3. So if projecting an image is so important to you, you're doing a very, very poor job at it. So it's like she picks and chooses what she thinks is okay. If you're going to be this Southern Belle, if you're going to be this pillar of the community, you can't invoke that when it's convenient. Be that across the board, and or just admit that you're flawed, and then I can accept you as such. So Andy was asking Phaedra about why she felt asking Porsha why Porsha wouldn't why Phaedra wouldn't defend her. Oh my gosh. And so she kept making excuses. Well, because of this and because of that. And Kandi basically stepped in and chimed in and said, well, if you talk to her, because that was Portia's excuse, saying, well, I called her and talked to her directly because that's the type of person that I am. That's what I do. And Candy's like, excuse me, that's what you do? Well, how come when we had our situation, you didn't call me? And she's like, well, because we weren't that close, blah, 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 blah. And every excuse, I'm sorry, everything Kandi said was spot on. It was spot on. And see, those are the moments that I hate. Excuse my French, but if you don't like a bitch, just say, I don't like you. Don't keep trying to mitigate or come up with excuses for your behavior. I just don't like you. I just don't feel close to you. I didn't really care about you on that level. And don't start saying stuff like, well, I'm just that type of person, because no, you're selective about when you're that person. And for whatever reason, you didn't feel like giving me the same courtesy that you extended to Phaedra. And as this reunion unfolds, I think that there's going to be even more evidence and based on what I've heard on the blogs and other places, more evidence of Phaedra's manipulation and sort of mind molding of Porsha. Porsha is Portia's an easy target. You know what I mean? Like, I think Porsha thinks that she's her own person in a lot of ways, but I think in other ways she's very desperate to be liked, very desperate to fit in, and so she clings tight to sometimes the most dysfunctional relationships, as evident by her marriage to Cordell. And so it's a lot of times when people are that way, it's really just a transference of energy. That person doesn't die, they just transfer that energy to new relationships, and that's kind of what I'm seeing with Porsha. Let's see what else happened. I think that I've pretty much hit on everything else. As far as I'm concerned, they can probably send Sheree home. She really doesn't have a lot left to contribute to the reunion. Cynthia too. As much as I love Cynthia, I think that Cynthia can probably go, and we can watch Kandi And when I say send them home, I don't mean off the show. I definitely don't want to see Cynthia go. And I thought Sheree actually brought some really interesting energy to the show as the bone collector this season. So I don't want to see her go either. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much all that I can recall that happened. So I gotta get out of here and get to the gym anyway, you guys. I'm running behind in terms of my workout. So let me get out of here. As always, in closing, remember to live better, love harder, and think smarter. Also, remember to follow me across all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. I'm Cerebral Diva on each and every one of those platforms. If you can spell, you can find me. It's spelled exactly as it's spoken, Cerebral and Diva. Um, not the word and, just Cerebral Diva. What else? Yes, and it's always in closing. Remember to live better, love harder, and think smarter. Like, comment, subscribe, dislike, thumbs up, thumbs down. Doesn't make me a difference either way. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye.